Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my shop. Welcome to my channel. My name's Keith and I'm your host. Come on in. Let's see what our next video is all about. Hey guys. Alright, we're back in on Buffy. And we have got her all primed up. First off, we mechanically cleaned our ways and our rotating surface on the top here, and we sanded it a little bit, and we put a coat of rusty metal primer as the red primer. That's what we primed everything with. It holds up really well on machinery, inside of gearboxes with oil bath and everything else. The K&T is 100% painted, primed with the rusty metal primer. Then I went over the outside of it with a two-part epoxy. That was a paint that was supplied by a company I used to work for, and they had a job that the paint got changed and there was an excess amount available, and I decided to paint the K&T that color. Anyhow, back to this here. So I painted it, and then I had some rough edges on the Bondo that was applied. I had a friend, Billy. Actually, I still have the friend. But Billy, at a certain time, he was helping me out, and he just kept coating this thing up with Bondo and sanding it, after we had cleaned it up. Of course, it had the table and everything else on there. So now that we got that off of there, I kind of came in and finished up the areas. I didn't add any more Bondo. This is not my hot rod I'm going to drive down the street and pick up girls with. But I do want it to be clean and be able to wipe up oils and sweep off chips and things like that as easy as possible. So a good, smooth, hard paint job is what you want. And I'm going to use Rust-Oleum enamel on this as well, which normally Rust-Oleum enamel is a soft paint, and also too, it usually takes forever to dry. But I found that adding in Japan dryer gives it a hard shell and will dry in less than 12 hours sometimes, but at least within 24 hours it will be dry and ready for the next coat. And then when I paint the next coat, 24 hours, it'll be dry and ready to assemble. I don't like waiting for paint. I'm not a good paint watcher, but I do like the durable smoke gray. Okay, I just painted those drill presses for Cape Cod fence that I did. You can see that on my MeWe page. And leftover paint is during projects, I go ahead and I end up painting something new on the closing lathe. And the last thing that got painted was the cover that goes over the back gears and all of that. And it really does make a big difference. So I got a little bit of masking, and we'll work on the gear change box, and we'll work on down the the apron, and we'll slowly get the closing painted, and we're going to get it painted with the smoke gray. Smoke gray I use because it's a comfortable color, and it wipes and cleans fairly nice, and it kind of just it's not machinery gray, which most of the Navy use. So yeah, Dove gray, haze gray, all the different grays. But the smoke gray is actually kind of pleasing, and I kind of like it, and I favor it. A lot of accents go really well with it. And also with Buffy, the polished aluminum parts offset really nice with that. And if there's anything that's black or whatever on any color will go with this smoke gray. That's what I'm saying. All right, so I'm getting here, and I have two older cans here, and I always I make sure they're sealed up good so you actually got a good can to hold as well. Meaning, use this paintbrush with it. You got your roller. You can brush small areas, but the sponge roller actually leaves a really nice finish on the equipment. And when it dries after a foam roller paint job, most of the time it glosses out and smooths up just like as if it was done with a spray gun. Okay, and of course when you're doing this in the middle of everything else in your shop, you don't want overspray. I did take a spray can and I fogged out. You can see the whiteness around the opening. I fogged the inside of that little storage area with white primer. The reason why I did that is I just want the walls to be clean and white, because when you open the door it's pretty well a dark space, but any light going in will reflect off the walls, and so that, you know, if you're looking for a collet or a head or a piece of tooling that you might be keeping in that little storage cupboard on the side, it makes it a little easier to see in there. Or if you put the flashlight in there, it really magnifies the amount of light you're putting in there, and it makes it a lot nicer. So while I had it at this point, why not, you know? So I did spray that in there, but everything else is going to be rolled on. That surface area in there is interwoven with webs and real coarse flashing, and it's just a non-paintable surface as far as rolling, brushing, or anything else like that. All right, we got about a quarter of this quart here, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of this, and we're going to add a little bit of Japan dryer. We have the main body, we have the knee, and we have the round riser to go ahead and paint up right now, and also the pedestal for the knee, that is ready to paint as well. The ram and the cross slide and the rotating turret and universal head, those items I just primed now. We have those over on the table. So on the far side over there you can see the blue masking tape around them, and we've got them primed. The pedestal's there, just waiting for the gray, and we'll leave that up there. And then over, I got hanging there on the hook is the ram. That's a fresh paint job. It'll be ready for gray later on today. And then the knee is actually over there, and I have it set so that I can paint that one edge and then stand it up and paint around the front or nose of it. Even in between little groups of the quartz there, I can notice a little difference or changing in color. So I always kind of take the one I've been working with and add in from the other one or the new one. Okay, and we'll set this off to the side for right now. Okay, there we go. All right, Japan dryer, they give you a certain amount in here to add in. Use 2 ounces or 3 caps per gallon. And I usually just go like this. It doesn't take much. And I'll make sure this is stirred in really well. Alright, we're ready to paint. Alright, we dump some into our roller. And we keep some in the can. So if we have to grab the can and do a little paint brushing, we'll do that and then we'll roll. Now, this rusty metal primer is a lot darker than the gray. And it does tend to come through. The whole thing about doing the rollers is just making sure that it's uniform and it's thin and equal, so you don't end up with runs, because the Rust-Oleum, you get a little heavier on a vertical surface and it's going to want to run. The little foam rollers actually kind of make it nice to come into the radiuses and give a nice uniform coating on it. It's not a race. The Japan dryer does not speed up the drying to where you're worried about getting it coated. But I'd start at the top and work your way down. Now if you do happen to drip, or let's just say I make a drip down in there, you want to take and smear it with a rag, get it taken care of before. Even right there, I'm not worried about on a little bit on the ways there. I just got this masking on here to keep the sharp line out here. And really nice when the center section right here on your mill is nice fresh paint. It kind of cleans it up nice. But we're not going to really be able to see it much because we're going to have the new rubber accordion or, or rubber guards, shields that are going to be covering up in between the table and the column. You want to eliminate the chips that come into the way area. Kind of hard to believe that I got to this point. Buffy's been waiting a long time, hasn't she? Okay, here I got that pin sticking up, and I want to try to keep as much paint off of that pin as possible. So see if I can come in around that. All right, the main body's coated. Let's go ahead and coat the knee. And I'm hitting this surface right around this face here first. And then I can lift it up. And we can detail out the top when we get up to the top. There. Okay. That's a good example of how well that roller lets you get right into those radiuses and around the corners. And no overspray in the shop. That's the greatest thing. And also, it does leave a really nice gloss. Okay, Buffy's finally ready to put back together. We've had a day or so that we've been painting. We did the primer and we sanded until we had the shape we wanted on all of our items, and we masked it off. And we gave it 2 coats of our smoke gray. We favor this color. All right, we're gonna put the riser on today, and I think we're gonna start with a pedestal support for the knee. And before we get on both of those, we want to, one, because we don't need to reach down in there if we drop anything from assembling up here. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put a new floor in the cupboard on the Bridgeport, and this is a fiber material. And I think masonite, or so, I forget what they actually called this material back in the day. Okay, and you just got to remember which way this goes in here, because it kind of goes in, twists, rolls over, and flops right into place. And that's the floor of your cupboard on the side of the Bridgeport. Now, we're going to make one out of aluminum, and we've drawn this shape out on a plasma cutter. We did a few modifications. We shortened these grooves right here to 1 inch. They don't need to be that deep there. And we're going to radius this. We're going to leave that the way it is, and just a little 1/4 inch radius on any sharp edges. All right, let's go in and cut one out. All right, I've got it drawn in on the screen, and here's our cheater. We got the plate up on the table, and we're ready to hit go. Oh, we do need some ventilation. Okay, and looks like a really nice clean cut. Okay, when that was cutting, I kind of noticed that I overlooked a couple radiuses. These inside little sharp corners, I actually wanted to have another little radius in there, but that was clean. Very little dross on the back side here. We're going to do a quick sand on that with the flapper disc, and we're going to go back in and fit that up. Okay, looks pretty close. Overlay it that way, overlay it that way there. You can see we got just a little bit of a radius in there. Looks pretty good. Alright, let's see how well it fits in here. Okay, I paused it for a second just to add a video up here. Looking down into the hole so you can see how this fits in here. And here we go. And I think it angled down in there. Okay, like that. Okay. Oh, normally if the top's on there, you can't do it. You can't do that. Okay. There you go. All right, there's a little piece of flashing holding that up there. And we're going to knock that out right there with a grinder or a hammer. Okay, we got our chisel. We're not going to make any dust in here. We got our hammer. We're just going to take some of that flashing out of there. I don't see that's pretty smooth. Alright, let's put it back in there and we'll see how that fits in there. We're going to take and we can vacuum that out. I just didn't want any spray going in there. Alright, and it's a mystery every time, right? Okay. Okay, I'm happy with that. Looks like it's high right over here in the corner here, a little bit. What's over here in the corner? See if that makes a difference. A little bit. Okay, we could put some felt or we could put some soft material on the bottom side of that, but at least we know we have a good fit piece that goes in there. Anybody else interested in that shape right there, I can cut one out for you. All right, let's move on to our project. Okay, right now you have the light coming down through the top so you can see, but once this top is put on here, you can see how dark it becomes inside there. And by fogging the inside walls and then having that aluminum bottom, you can see how much it actually illuminates. Now you could have a magnetic light in there if you wanted to, and you could have no problem seeing whatever it is you put in there. My most experience is that you just got one or two items in here that you're putting in here that would be used occasionally that are a little bit bigger than normally sitting in your tooling rack. Alright, the first thing I want to do is want to put the riser up on here. We want to add a riser in here because so many times I come in with a standard Bridgeport with no riser in there and get into needing the super spacer, the rotary table, and you start stacking all of that onto the table. You lower the table down to give your room for tooling, and then you put your part in on the index head or the rotary table, and then you find yourself changing out collets and drill chucks to do repetitive operations on holes and so forth. Or if you had a manifold and you wanted to come in and do a bore, there's a lot of different things where adding a little bit more height will give you more actually ease of using those items or setups that restrict your vertical travel. So we got the riser, it's painted. We have the cross that supports the regular head and the cross that came with the riser, and we're using both of them. One, you need to hold the riser to the mill, and the other one is to let the swinging head for the column pivot on the riser, and they use the same exact thing. So these are interchangeable. I believe this is probably the one that it's kind of hard to tell, isn't it? All right, we're going to pick this one here. Now, I went down yesterday because by using this and then putting a spacer on here, we're not going to use the regular hold down bolts. So I measured what I'm going to need, and I picked up Allen, because in our local store, if you just or you know, grab the bend with the regular hex head bolts, you've got grade 5 or less. And I wanted the strength in this, so I want to be able to tighten this down, and I don't want it to move or fail at this location. So I'm going to use the Allens, which I know are at least grade 8. All right, I'm going to run the tap into all these holes. As I put Buffy back together, we will clean out all the oil passages and all the threaded holes as we go, and we will be adding never sees in on every piece that it is. So down the road, whoever inherits this mill will have ease of going through it again if they need to. All right, so let's go ahead and chase this out. All right, we tapped out our holes in this cross. We'll tap out that one when we get ready to put the next piece on there. Both of these pieces weren't painted, and we put it in a blast cabinet, and we kind of blasted it a little bit. And hey, I'm 60, going on 64 years old, and this thing is the 1970s, and that's like 50 years, and what's it going to look like in another 50 years? And I don't really know what it's going to be looking like in another 50 years, but I'm not worried about it right now. All right, we do know that it's clean, and we will do one little thing. We'll put a drop of oil on each one of these little pads here, just so that when we clamp it up, it won't be a rust spot. All right, there we go. And we're going to never seize on the bolts. All right, now we want to put just a little bit of oil around on this surface right here, because we don't want the surface to just rust. So if you put a light coat of oil in between here and the other mating surface right here, we won't have a rusting situation. All right. Funny, from back there I can see that we're just kind of missing a little spot there. All right. Okay, we can lift this right up on here. All right. And we're going to put it crosswise like this. All right, now we're just going to put our bolts down in here. And we got washers on them. Okay, now this may, and we're going to need an extension, short extension probably. That works. Yeah, we'll just go across from it. Okay, we're going to put a wrench by hand. I want to feel the amount of torque I have on that. Okay, she is locked in place. All right, now this thing actually, the top piece actually has a rotational scale on it, and there's a line over here. So before we put the next piece on here, I'm going to take a square and I'm going to come down to that line on the side, and I'm going to put a little tiny line up at the top surface so that we'll be able to, by eyeball, put the ram 90 degrees when it needs to be set at 0. Okay, right there is our line, the original line in the casting, and we're going to put the square on the surface up here, and we're going to eyeball this in here. I'm going to get my head right here in the way. Alright, and now I'm just taking a scribe and I'm just putting a little line right there. I'm not going to punch it or whatever. If this comes off and it goes some other machine or whatever in the future, I don't want to put a blem or a mark on it. That's just a scratch in the paint. Okay, we tapped out this one, and we'll put it in its resting point there. This is 90 degrees, so we're going to be putting the head on this way, and then we'll be rotating it around. Now, if you notice over here on the gantry, I have the ram, and the ram is all painted and ready to go. And of course, we got to assemble this in here and pull some tape and stuff off of it. Once you get this end on here, the weight, it'll probably be leveling out, and then we'll be able to slide it in with that. But right now I'm going to set this down because we're going to need to pick up and set the next section on top of that riser. And we'll go ahead and put the pedestal on the bottom, and then the knee will be ready to come over and sit on it. So I'm going to lower this down real quick and then reposition the gantry because we'll have to set the top piece up on there. Let's see if that's high enough, huh? Okay, and yeah, it's going to be way high enough. Okay, let's take this chain out of here, put it up here for right now, and well, look at that surface right there. Give it a good feel. I did take a piece of emery and kind of clean it up before we painted. This is good here. All right. Now we're going to want oil again on our fingers. And around the ring. This one's kind of important because this is the one that's going to move around when we rotate the head. We just want to make sure it's nice and moist. Okay. Wipe the excess off our fingers. We'll worry about fingerprints and stuff later. Alright, and this normally rides on the other side there, but for right now, we'll bring it in here. Okay. Excellent. Okay, we're going to come down just enough to get off the hook. There we go. Put that out over our weight. There we go. Okay, there we go. We're just going to do one at a time. So I'm reaching down in here and I'm picking up, if I have to, or scooting over. Yeah, I think. There we go. Alright, that one started. We're coating each one with some Never-Seez here. Keep the threads nice and moist here. Okay, just that's not crack, and that's not barely cracking it. All right, let's get. We'll get a wrench. We'll break those loose. Okay, And there we go. All right, we line up the 0 over here at our mark. And that's pretty much where she'll stay most of the time, unless we have a special operation going on. Okay, we're going to take some pictures. We assembled this piece on here, and we forgot to run our volume once again. All right, we cleaned up our surfaces that went together. We put a light coat of oil on them, and we put the pedestal in place, and we put the 2 Allens in there, and we didn't torque them 100% down. We just brought it down to where it's holding it from moving around. And we took the lead screw that runs the knee up and down and coated it with grease, and we put the nut on there. We're reusing this nut. The end thrust on this shaft was less than 5 by feel, and we decided to just reuse this nut. And so we were going to go with it. We lightly coated it with grease, and then we put a layer of grease on the threads, dabbed it on the threads down underneath there. So when this comes up for the first time, it's going to run grease on it, and then we can put grease on it from this side here. We made a new key, fits in there, and we got the nut, and we believe in our collection that that's the washer that goes on there. And we'll confirm that when we get the whole stack up. Now, we needed to prep the knee to go down on here, and the first thing that goes down on here is this bearing. And this bearing goes in this direction right here, just like that, and then the gear goes over it. And then there's a flange that holds this into the case or the knee. So this bearing here happens to be a very rare item, because back when they made it especially for Bridgeport. The W306 PP3 originally has a 20 millimeter bore, and the standard bearing normally came with a 30 millimeter, and it has this raised flange right here. Alright, so anyhow, we decided to go ahead and pull this bearing apart, repack it, and put it back together, and this is how that went. Alright, a couple things you're gonna need to do this. I want my best scribe. We're gonna need a little flat punch, a little hammer, and then we need a 1970s tool. All right, and get a good strong one. Okay, not one that's all burnt out on the tips. All right. First off, I take the punch. The reason why I chose this is wide enough to fit in here and go against the spiral ring. The spiral ring goes all the way around here. What that does is that just kind of like breaks it loose from its position that it's been in for 50 years, and is probably a little more likely to come out. Okay, I can get this scribe underneath the end here. So let's go ahead and try and get our hemostats under here. There we go. All right. And there is a little bit of rust there. All right. Well, it's a good thing we're taking this apart and cleaning it up. Now, we want to keep this surface out in here is what moves around with this inside rotating. So we don't want to dig in on that side. We want to dig in on this side out here. Alright, and this is rubber. May not have been anything leaking in here. You know, I may not have hit it directly, but we don't know. Okay, so now I'm just going to get my fingers in here, and I'm going to pull that up. And it don't look terribly bad inside there. Alright, let's do the same with the other side, because we're going to wash it and we're going to flush it. And I don't know, is this another ring here? Or? Yeah, it is. There's actually 2 rings in here. So there's a ring that sandwiches each side of that. Oh. Got shit on my glasses, damn it. Yeah, a whole bunch of shit in there. Okay, but it's not wet and moist, but it is oily, and I think we're doing this good. We're going to go ahead and pop it off the other side as soon as I clean my glasses, because I'm looking through a pile. Alright, be right back. Alright, nice new clean windshield. Let's go for the second side here. See if I can just get these right underneath here. Oh, maybe this one here. There we go. Okay, this side's a little drier. You just want to be careful you don't rip it. You want it to stay as nice as possible here. This one actually feels like it's leather. That feels like leather. And that other side might be leather as well. Looks red like leather. They are. They're leather lip seals. Alright. That's good. We got both of those off without screwing them up. Get this other ring in here. There we go. That's the one that flung the stuff on me. Okay. The bearing is nice and smooth. Okay, so what we want to do is clean this out and repack it with grease. Very, very happy we were able to do that and save us a bunch of money. Alright, nothing up our sleeves, and take out my watch just because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pack this bearing, and I'm going to pack it by hand. And when I do that, I like to take and actually dip the grease right in here on the bearing, and then use that palm to push it through. And you can see it oozing through the bearing. Okay, and I'm going to work that all the way around. And if we run low on grease, then I scoop up some more. Okay, I'm pushing up through there, there. Your palm just makes a really good pusher. Okay. Get some of that grease out of the hole and around the outside. Okay. We've actually pushed it through the bearings all the way around. Now we're just going to push it in short way on . Okay, now we gotta just take our finger and kind of rub in here because we're gonna make a little room for our seals to sit in there. Okay, and we're just going to get rid of the excess grease. We're not going to put it back in the can. Okay. Now we got halfway clean, but we're not totally out of it yet. So we're just going to grab a couple shop rags here. I'm just wiping off the excess off the outside of the bearing so that I can handle it. And go ahead and wipe. This is a regular lid right here, and it makes a good surface to put greasy bearings down on. All right, we're gonna preload now. We know that this side here went against the lead screw because we could see that surface of the lead screw right on there. So that's why we didn't really pay attention to it, but it actually goes in the knee in that position, and it goes against the lead screw right there. And this side right here had the gear coming down on it, and then the locking nut. All right. This side here had the better leather on it because it hung down there, and the chips and all the oils and everything else was on the top side. So I'm going to switch these, and I'm going to put the better of the two on the top side and the least that I need on the bottom side. Now we got to pick. We're almost thinking about changing these out and putting the inside ones on the outside and the outside ones on the inside. Why not? You know? Why not? Okay. First it takes a seal. I mean a ring. Okay, you got to make sure that there's a slight bit of gap between these so it goes out into that little groove right there. Okay. Now, that's our better one. Let me push this one down. You got to get it in that ring there all the way around. Just like that. The lip goes like this. And now we're going to put we'll go ahead and put this one in here. We got to bend, straighten out. I'm going to straighten these out a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right. There we go. Okay, in all the way around, and we got, it took a little bit of just pushing out, but we got a gap between that snap ring. That means we know that it's all the way out. Okay, I'm just going to push this through to get rid of the grease in the bore there. Pull it out. Okay, wipe off this side. All right, let's assemble the seals in on this side. All right, we're going to put the outside ring in here first. Okay, snapped in there. Very good. All right, we're going to lay in our seal. Trying to work it in that groove on the outside so that the inside just kind of like rolls into place there. Okay, I like that. Okay, here goes our last ring. We're pushing out is what we're doing. There we go. All right. A completely washed and repacked bearing feels just like a brand new one too. Got some nice drag on there. We know we got plenty of grease in there. There we go. Just saved ourselves $100 or so better right there repacking that bearing.